Welcome to the City of Opa-locka virtual regular commission meeting. Today is Wednesday, July 8th, 2020. The time is 7:02 p.m. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Bass.
I'm here.
Commissioner Burke. Commissioner Kelly.
Present.
Vice Mayor Davis.
Here.
And just for the record, the mayor will not be attending this evening's meeting.
Thank you. Madam Attorney, if you could go over the rules and laws governing tonight's virtual meeting.
Yes, Vice Mayor. Pursuant to Executive Order 20-69 issued by the Office of the Governor, Ron DeSantis, on March the 20th, 2020, municipalities may conduct meetings of their governing boards without having a quorum of its members present physically or at any specific location and utilizing communications media technologies such as telephonic or video conferencing as provided by Section 120.54 5B2 Florida statutes. The members of the City Commission appearing remotely for this meeting tonight are Commissioners Bass, Commissioner Kelly, Vice Mayor Davis are the commissioners appearing. An opportunity was given for the public to email the city clerk prior to the commission meeting with any questions or comments and concerns. And at the appropriate time, the city clerk will announce such persons if she has any who have called in or emailed in. As of this time, at 7 o'clock, we have received the speakers that the clerk will acknowledge in a moment. And Mr. Vice Mayor, I'll turn the meeting back over to you.
Thank you, Madam Attorney. Commissioner Bass, would you like to go ahead with that invocation?
Yes, sir. Father, we thank you. We bless you. We honor you today. We thank you, Lord God, for giving us another opportunity, Lord God, to get it right, Father. God, we ask you that you will bless, oh God, our community, Lord God. Bless the 7 continents, Lord God. Bless your people. Help us, oh God, to govern, oh God, according to your will. Give us wisdom, knowledge, revelation, and understanding. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Bass. I'll lead the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To
to
the flag
of
of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it
which
stands,
stands
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any awards, proclamations, or presentations?
No, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Okay. So do I have a motion to approve the agenda? The consent? No, I'm sorry. The consent agenda.
Move it.
No, I'm sorry, Commissioner. Let's go back a little bit. Got any pulls, deferrals, or deletions? Madam Clerk, can you stroll down the toggle menu to the agenda, please? Sorry, flipping screens here.
I'm sorry, Miss Vice Mayor. Can you just give me a minute? I'm trying to figure something out. Hold on.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so I apologize. I was having difficulties sharing my screen, so Nelson is going to do it on my behalf.
Thank you. So we'll just pick up where we left off. Approval of the consent agenda. So do we have any pulls, deletions, or deferrals?
So, Mr. Vice Mayor, I want to pull number one.
Number one. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Any other pulls, deletions, or deferrals? Okay. Motion to approve the agenda.
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Kelly.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bass. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Burke, and Mayor Davis.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
All right. Moving on to the approval of the minutes from the virtual special commission meeting on June 18th. Do I have a motion?
Move it. I'll second.
Moved by Commissioner Kelly, seconded by Commissioner Bass. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you. Moving right along, the District 1 and 2 report. Do we have any report, Madam Clerk? Any comments from District 1 and 2?
No, Vice Mayor, I haven't received anything from either District 1 or 2.
Okay, thank you. Along those same lines, do we have any public presentations for tonight?
No, we don't have any, Vice Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Moving to the next item, do we have any public comments for citizens forum?
Yes, we have one public comment, and let me just pull it up. Okay, so the public comment reads as follows. Good afternoon. My name is Eric Redmond, 2766 Northwest 131 Street, Opa-locka, Florida, 33054, Villa Francine. First, let me start by saying that what happened at the last regular commission meeting was appalling, insulting, and degrading towards the city manager. For a citizen to indicate that the manager is allegedly on some type of drug usage and or alcohol was nasty to say about our city manager. I would hope that decorum also extends to our clerk, attorney, and manager. And this manager should receive an apology from the city regarding these nasty remarks indicated herein. Next, in review of the last regular commission meeting, liens and running fines was brought up regarding a matter that was being heard before this commission. I would like to take this time to bring to the commission attention the catastrophic field between Villa Francine and Wells Fargo Bank, which this property has no affiliation with Villa Francine. This property is privately owned and the owner has walked away from this property. Now, to give you a short synopsis of this property, for about 2 or more years, we have brought this horrible condition regarding this property to code enforcement's attention, in which at that time, Code Enforcement Officer Wilma Wilcox took action by making sure that running fines and liens were in fact placed on that property. The file was turned over to the manager's office when Yvette Harrell was the manager at that time. And once it went before the special masters, the manager at that time turned the file over to the attorney's office, which was Vince Brown at that time. Nothing was done. I would ask that the file regarding this eyesore of a property be turned over to the city attorney's office for review. And after the city attorney reviews the matter, that the attorney bring back an opinion as to how the city can deal with this matter. Thank you, E. Redmond, citizen. And that concludes the public comments, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any of my colleagues would like to provide a response to public comment?
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Kelly. And then Commissioner Bass.
Yes, the manager's listening, so I would just ask that he do a follow-up on the concern raised by the resident and provide the commission with the report, and then we can go from there if need be. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bass.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. My sentiments exactly my colleague, Commissioner Kelly, just stated. I saw that property today again, and he has a point. It's ugly. And I think we deserve better as a city, and our residents deserve better. So I'm hoping that our manager will look into it quickly. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Commissioner. Absolutely echo my colleagues' concerns. Mr. Manager, if you could, look into the matter and maybe work with the attorney's office to provide an opinion as to how to best remedy that matter. Greatly appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
So thank you, Mr. Manager. Now moving on to our action items. Madam Attorney.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, establishing an audit committee, providing for composition of membership, providing for duties of the committee, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the City Manager.
I'll move it for discussion.
Moved by Commissioner Kelly.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Bass for discussion. Floor is open for discussion.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Commissioner Kelly.
Thank you. I understand totally the need for the audit committee. The question goes to the makeup and composition of the committee. I noticed it's a member of the city commission as chair, and then the other blanks, and then the manager acts in an advisory capacity. And then there's an alternate member, I guess, in case one of the other three, is that to assume, cannot make it. And it says the selection process coordinator in reference is to clerks. I don't know if we're referencing that to the clerk, but it's the manager's item. Can I get a clarity on, is it a 3-person committee, number one? The manager is an advisory, and you have one more person just in case the other 3 are not able or can't fulfill obligation, that 5th person steps in. But are the others 2 just citizens appointed by the commission, or exactly how is that composition made up to the sponsor and or the attorney?
Mr. Manager, you want to take that?
Yes, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you.
So the composition of the committee is 5 individuals. 1 individual is myself as a technical advisor, 1 other person as an alternate, 3 other individuals that are appointed. The individuals that are appointed, the reason is blank, the city commission is going to be actually asked to fill a name to fill those appointments.
I understand.
Do you have anything further that you wanted to add?
Mr. Manager, I think Commissioner Kelly, he wanted clarification. I think he missed the point. If you could restate it, please.
Did I miss a point that you're trying to clarify, Commissioner?
Maybe I didn't, you got muffled at the end, so you may have answered the question. I'm trying to ask, who makes up the membership? Is it the commission going to decide this, or?
The commission makes that determination.
Okay, but for the purpose of voting, there are only 3 voting members of this committee?
That's correct.
Okay, so the commission basically is putting at least 1 elected official, and then has the option of 3 other folks in addition to yourself.
Correct.
And how would their terms or the term of their service run? Concurrent with the term of an elected official, or is it already set per each year? How would that work?
Based on the individual audit cycle.
Based on what?
The audit cycle, based on the audit cycle. So this would be a one-time appointment for the RFP process and a one-time appointment of the auditor. So every time there's an RFP for auditors, then this cycle will begin again.
Correct.
Okay, so, Mr. Vice Mayor, if I can, so
Mhm.
when we embark on this now, we're getting ready, I guess, for another audit cycle. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct, Commissioner.
Okay, so the commission is passing this. So when is it going to come back to fill in these names?
The names that need to be filled in tonight.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Tonight.
Tonight?
Or the matter can be deferred to the next meeting if time is needed for the names.
Mr.
Well,
Mayor?
you said it's in concurrent with the audit cycle. So if you have okay, when is the audit cycle that you're talking about? You have not done yet, right?
Correct. We have not done the audit. That's the upcoming audit. That's the next audit needs to be performed.
Okay. I understand the need for it. I understand why we're doing it, but my concern is the makeup of the folks and how we're going to do that to make sure that we're in agreement of how many positions and who we're selecting and how their term of duty is going to run. So you're saying basically we hire an auditor for a 2-year cycle or 3-year cycle, then this audit committee would serve that length of time?
That's correct.
That's correct.
Okay, I'll hear what my colleagues will say. So basically tonight, we are supposed to fill in the blanks.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Well, I don't know if okay, I'll hear my colleagues first. I've got a uncomfortable level with filling in tonight. Okay, I'll hear what my colleagues have to say. Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Kelly. Commissioner Bass, I think you had something.
Yes, thank you so much, Vice Mayor. I'm in agreement with forming this committee. However, I'm also uncomfortable right now with having to come up with names to fill slots that are so vital to the success of our community. So with that being said, me personally, I would need time to think of whomever. Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner. Just to echo both of my colleagues' concerns, I'm not comfortable making 3 appointments tonight. I'm not sure if the item is time sensitive in that way. I know that the manager said that we had to make the appointment tonight, but I'm also not in favor of supporting this item as is tonight and making those appointments. So the item can be, I don't know, deferred, or if we could bring the item back, Madam Attorney.
You all can certainly do that. I think and I'm not sure if, I don't want to speak for your staff, but I think they were trying to get this done. It's normal that you would have blanks so that the commission could decide who you would select or who you might select for that position. It could be, it could be more than one city commissioner if you wanted to do that. However, what a lot of cities will do, and Jerry and your finance person can chime in, is they may have a suggestion, and I did mention this to the manager, of someone from another city who serves in a budget department and who will, serve on that committee along with the city commissioner and along with maybe a resident who has knowledge about audits or budget or something like that. So you all can do any kind of thing like that. It's just that the statute does require that the city manager serves in an advisory committee. It does require that however, an employee cannot serve. That's the statute will not allow for an employee to serve. A chief executive officer has to serve, or a chief financial officer of the municipality. So you could have either or. You also would have you would have a representative from the city commission. It could be one of you, any one of you could serve. And so, if you need more time, obviously you need more time, but the idea was that it would be brought to you tonight so that you could look at it and consider it, and maybe the manager may even have a recommendation already of a colleague, or maybe the budget director may have a recommendation already of a colleague. I won't speak for them again, but I think time is of the essence in trying to get your audit underway.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, can you speak, I guess, on the administrative side, if it's time sensitive, or if you have any recommendations as far as, I guess, appointments? Given that we have two colleagues that are absent tonight, me personally, I wouldn't feel comfortable I'm doing so without having the full board here to kind of weigh in.
Understood.
So with that, that's my position. Mr. Manager, if you would like to chime in.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I'll ask our financial consultant to speak on the matter, and then I'll chime in. But I do want to give her an opportunity to speak on the item.
Okay.
Jerry.
Yes, through the Vice Mayor. Good evening, everyone, commissioners, guests. So the intent of this is just to create the audit committee. We do have time to fill in the blanks. We do not necessarily have to select the committee members tonight. We do need to create the committee because based on the new rules, we have to have the committee selected so that, or the committee at least in place so that we can then provide you guys a slate of individuals, or you can possibly select individuals, but we can certainly help with identifying those with a finance or a budget background. And then your internal staff can serve as advisory persons, but they cannot serve as voting members. But the intent of the legislation tonight is just to create the committee. We still have time to put individuals on the actual committee. And the reason why we want to start this process is we're in the process of creating the RFP that we want to submit to go out on the streets. And that means that we need to have this committee in place so that we can start to begin this process simultaneously with them, and maybe doing some training with them and getting them up to speed. So at least tonight, we'd like to get the committee at least created. That I don't think is something that requires a lot of deliberation. We're already not in compliance with the laws by not having it.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Attorney.
Yes, the way that the legislation is written, there is no way to create the committee and not establish it because it's all a part of the same resolution. So unless, I suppose you could, the foundational element of this is really the establishment of a audit committee through these members. I mean, Section 2 is really the meat of the resolution. So I don't know how you separate it, but if they say they have time, then they have time, and that's fine. But there's this resolution is not written where you can separate the creation from the members.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes. Is there a way, Madam Attorney, to pass the item subject to appointment and put in a time certain for it to run concurrently with the process that the manager mentioned earlier? Or with a amendment that says subject to appointments to be made by a certain date? You could do that.
Sure. I'm sure we could be creative and amend it where we could have it establishing the committee, and then change some language in there, which would establishment of the audit committee, within so many days or something like that. Yes, I could certainly change the language somewhat in
this may be in Section 2, appointing the following members by, which would be the next commission meeting or something. Mm-hmm. So everybody would, hopefully be in place. We'd have a chance to talk to the manager, or they can give us their suggestions, and the commission could actually insert into the blanks some actual numbers. I'm just asking for 2 weeks, basically.
Okay.
For the next meeting.
So what we can do is we can put within no later than 20 days, but we know that the meeting will take place within less than 20 days. So that will allow you all to do that. But you see my dilemma, right? The section 2 is really it. So it's establishing the audit committee. So I can make sure I rewrite it to meet your intent.
Well, Mr. Vice Mayor, I'll move the, well, if you're concerned about the lines, Madam Attorney, to the Vice Mayor, to the Attorney, I mean, we see what the manager and the staff's intent. Even if you just said 5 people, would that help you out with how you got to do it? And not
No, I can meet your intent. That's not
okay,
that's not a
okay.
problem.
All
It's
right,
just
well,
that
I'll move the amendment as laid out by the attorney for the 20 days to make the specific appointments with that language that she will insert, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'll move that amendment to the item.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. So we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Bass. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
motion passes on the amendment.
The main
Mr. Vice,
motion. Yes, Madam Attorney?
I'm sorry, sir.
Mhm.
You go right ahead. I apologize.
Okay, so back to the main motion. Any more discussion on the main motion?
No more discussion?
Okay, no more discussion. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
motion passes 3-0.
And Mr. Vice Mayor, point of order. I just wanted to ask the clerk, if I may, through you, whether or not the consent agenda was voted upon.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it wasn't.
Okay, so that would need to happen, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Yeah, I think that's following, that's next on the agenda.
Okay, Madam Attorney, to the consent agenda items.
One was pulled, Vice Mayor, and the only, which was the one that you pulled and we just discussed, the only remaining item is one other item. And that one would, because it remains on the consent agenda, your vote would be a vote for the consent agenda, which would include that item.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I move to move the consent agenda.
Moved by Commissioner Kelly,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Bass. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
motion passes 3-0.
The next item is an ordinance. Would you like for me to read it into the record, Mr. Vice Mayor?
Yes, Madam Attorney. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to pull up my agenda.
No problem.
Yes, Madam Attorney, you may read the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, amending Article 2, Division 2, Section 2-45, entitled Agenda, to allow for a portion of each regular City Commission agenda to include future agenda items, providing for severability, conflict, and repealer, inclusion in the code, and providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by Commissioner Bass.
Thank you, Madam Attorney. Do we have any public comments for this item, Madam Clerk?
No, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Okay. Any discussion from my colleagues? Commissioner Bass?
I can tell you my point of view if that's what you're asking me.
Yes, you may go ahead, Commissioner.
Mr. Vice Mayor, you want to move in a second to get into discussion?
Yes. Are you putting a motion on the floor, Commissioner?
Well, if you're going to start discussing, we ought to put it on the floor, with a motion in a second.
Are you putting up the motion, Commissioner?
No, it's hers. I'll let her move.
Okay.
I move it.
I'll second.
Moved by Commissioner Bass, second by Commissioner Kelly.
Continue.
Yes.
All
You
right,
have the
thank
floor, Commissioner Bass.
All right, thank you, Vice Mayor. This matter was suggested in the League of City Trainings. It is my desire to give the city manager the best opportunity to utilize staff by focusing on commission items that have the majority of city commission support before the items are placed on the city commission agenda for a final vote. Adding a future agenda item select to the committee agenda will give commission opportunity to be more organized. Several cities have a portion of their regular city commission based on our recent training and also speaking with our city attorney. Having a future agenda item section will allow staff to better prepare for commission items following a thoughtful discussion by the city commission and the subject matter or issue. When an issue is brought to future agenda items, my intent is to state just enough information of the item to be voted on to move forward to the next commission meeting. It is not my intent, therefore, to be a lengthy discussion on the item that will be discussed at the next meeting. Finally, by allowing portion of the agenda item just for discussion, we have time to do our own research and also separately talk with our city manager and about the feasibility of the item. That is my take on it, and I do thank you for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bass. Commissioner Kelly, have any remarks?
Yes, I did not attend the training that you referenced. I understand the intent of what you're trying to do. I guess the question that I have is to how it would work in terms of a process. So the items that would be considered for future agenda, where on the agenda, for example, would they fall to get this vote, if you will, to do whatever for the future? Where would that fall and how long would that discussion? Because you said you didn't want a lengthy discussion. One reason you're doing it. So how would that process work?
Mr. Vice Mayor?
Madam Attorney?
Yes, if you look at on the agenda in that section, it will be page 33, Commissioner Kelly, and its future agenda items falls after the mayor commission reports and before the official board appointments.
Wait a minute, you said page 34?
Well, I'm looking at on what I have in all of the pages that you have. It's page 33. It may be page 32 on yours. I'm not sure. But it's if you look under the item, this item on the that's sponsored by Commissioner Bass. Look under the item and then go to the third page of the item. That's where it is.
Yeah, I don't know if my 32 is your 32.
But you'll see where it says 20, it says future agenda items. So it's item number 20 on the list.
Okay, my page 32, when I'm looking at this legislation, is that the last one under adjournment?
It is two things before adjournment. The only thing before adjournment is official board appointments, and the one right before that is future agenda items. That's where it will be inserted.
Okay, so if I have an item, trying to understand if I have an item or something that I want potential legislation and staff to look at and what have you, it will go under future agenda items. So when I put that under there or in that section, then the commission, when it gets to that point in the agenda, would vote to say, yeah, go forward, or no, don't go forward? Is that the intent of that?
That is the intent of that. You would have an item and you would bring the item to your colleagues. If you have a majority vote for the item, it goes on the next agenda as a future agenda item. And one of the things that was discussed in the training, as Commissioner Bass said, and it happens with a lot of other cities, it helps you all to operate more efficiently, and it helps staff to be able to prepare for your items more efficiently.
So if an item is not proffered under number 20, then there's no way it's going to be an agenda item on the next agenda.
If it's not proffered under number 20, it will, and I think one of the issues that the League of Cities representative was expressing is that when you don't, there should be some opportunity for you to discuss what's going to come before your on your agenda. Whether you do that through a workshop setting or in a commission meeting, there should be some opportunity that you don't have staff preparing things that have no chance of passage. And so that was kind of the issue, because you have limited staff, obviously, and you want to be focused in how you deploy resources. And if your staff is working on 4 different things that have no consensus on the agenda or chance of passing, then it's not a very good way to utilize your resources. And so the answer to your question is yes. This would require some sort of consensus from you all before so that your staff can be more focused and you'll have more time to organize and prepare for your own items that are going to be on those future agenda items, whether it's your item or not.
Okay, the second, well, two more things, because this is an ordinance, so it's going to get a second reading. How would this work in terms of the legislation we have already about how many items an elected official can offer per meeting, whatever? I think right now there's a set number that we can offer, being I think 5 or 4, I don't know what it is now, 5 that we can offer. That's number one. And the second question, Mr. Vice Mayor, goes to the clerk, because I know there are time frames on getting stuff in that's already set in our process in order to make the agenda. So how would that impact, or how would this legislation impact that, if any? And also the other question, first one to the attorney, since I or anyone can proffer up to 5, I'm kind of thinking how it's going to play out, because if I got 3 items with these time frames, I got to try to get on this future agenda to get on a regular agenda. I could see us talking on number 20 for a very long time after the meeting, because I'm trying to get my items potentially okay with my colleagues for it to get on the regular agenda. And that may not be a bad thing, because it might free up time on the next meeting, but if we got a long meeting already, I'm trying to wonder how that's going to sit, considering we can offer as many as 5 items on the agenda. So, Madam Vice Mayor, I'm sorry, to the attorney for the first question and the clerk the second question.
Madam Attorney.
Yes, Vice Mayor and Commissioner Kelly. This, I don't think it will have any bearing on the timelines, Commissioner Kelly, because the timelines are still what they are in terms of how, in fact, it helps with the timelines because it doesn't allow for the last minute items that are not thought out, that right now we spend a lot of time on, and it wastes a lot of time. And sometimes you do all that work and it gets to you all and it doesn't even pass because there wasn't a consensus for it in the first place. So I don't think it will hurt at all. I think it helps you operate more efficiently and effectively. And in terms of the timelines, they are what they are. You mentioned 5 things, that's resolutions. You could still conceivably, even though you all don't do that even now, I don't know how, I don't know why you would do it if you had a future agenda item, but let's just assume you had up to 5 things. That wouldn't change. You could still bring up to 5 resolutions if they were all approved by a majority vote to go on, and they all went forward and they were all drafted, and one person had 5 things that they had approved. But I think it's highly unlikely. Like I said, it doesn't even happen now. So I think nothing, I was, very pleased to hear the league bring this issue up, and the fact that Commissioner Bass saw this as something that could make the city operate more efficiently. I think she's dead on, and I welcome it. And I can tell you from the staff standpoint, and I don't know if John wants to, through the Vice Mayor, comment on it, but it would certainly help from our perspective to be more efficient and allow more time to process items so that you have good products that come before you. They're not rushed. You can do proper research, and you have a better understanding of what legislation you're passing.
Thank you. Commissioner Kelly was.
Well, I'm waiting on the clerk. The attorney. Okay, I'll just leave that alone. Could I get the answer from the clerk? Because I asked the second question of the clerk, not the attorney.
Madam Clerk, would you like to address Commissioner Kelly's?
Yes, Mr. Vice Mayor. So to address Commissioner Kelly's question, as long as the deadlines are met that are in the code, there shouldn't be any issues with this ordinance at all. And just to clarify what the attorney was saying, it's 4 items that each member of the city commission can sponsor per meeting, and it's on page 33 of the ordinance. So you can also see that on there, and also the deadlines are on page 33. So as long as the deadlines are met in terms of future agenda items, then there shouldn't be any issue.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'm going to, okay, I want to support this on first reading. I understand the intent. I agree with the intent. I'm just kind of leery of these items coming up at the end after a long meeting, and whether they really will get the discussion or whatever they need to before they go to the full structure. But I definitely understand the intent and support that. Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. To the attorney, because I mean, I agree with the legislation. I think it, will help us as commissioners. We all have ideas on how to improve the community, but ultimately it will give us an opportunity to, to gauge consensus before, like the attorney alluded to, having staff do the work and providing a lot of time ahead of items that, either don't have consensus or, don't make sense from the rest of the board. I also hear Commissioner Kelly's concern too about the time that it could potentially lapse in a meeting. I mean, is there any way that we could, I guess, maybe limit the time of that specific item or restrict it in any way, Madam Attorney, so that we don't run over and that we, do realize that, that we are limited in time and not running over?
Well, the way that it works, and as it was stated by Commissioner Bass, this is done in a lot of cities, and the way that it works is you're not spending a lot of time on it. It's just you're just bringing it up. Like you may not even have a future agenda item. In most cases, you may not, But if you did want something put on the agenda, or for either discussion or for it doesn't prevent you from saying whatever you want to say under your own report. Obviously you can still speak about whatever, but in terms of legislation, what you would do is you would limit it. It's just enough information to give your colleagues an idea of what it's about, so it goes on an agenda. It's not like you're having a long, full-blown discussion about it. It's just enough information so that it goes on the agenda. And that's the way you do it. It's just like if you were having an issue and you wanted to, let's say, do something with streetlights, and you wanted you're having an issue FP&L, and the streetlights are coming on too late, and I want to bring forward on the next agenda the issue of streetlights. They're coming on too late, and then somebody seconds, and it goes on, and there's a majority vote, and it goes on the next agenda. So there's not a lengthy discussion about it. It's only just enough to get the information out so that your colleagues are aware of it. On the other hand, if you had something about some issue that was a hotly contested issue, or something that only one commissioner had a full-blown passion about, and which probably would be rare, and it doesn't get majority vote, then that doesn't get on the agenda. But then what it allows to happen is that your staff can then go, they can prepare for it. If they know the street light issue is coming up, they can go and talk to FPNL. They can go and do the research. They can be prepared. They can, it's not just kind of running around in the dark right before the commission meeting, trying to do an agenda item, and you don't have all the information. You don't even know what, So it really does allow commissions to operate more efficiently and effectively, and allows your staff to be more focused.
Okay. I mean, long as it don't get in the way of, the agenda and, the time that we ultimately set, and allocate for our public meetings. I'm, given the attorney's response, and, I don't really have a problem with it. Commissioner Kelly, you have any concern?
No, I by the time this gets rolling, it's gonna be interesting to see how it works. I want to support it on first reading. I understand the intent, so let's just move forward.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Baz,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis.
Yes.
Motion passes first reading.
Okay. City Manager's report.
Mr. Vice Mayor, we have a second reading ordinance.
Yes, Mr. Vice Mayor, if I may.
Oh, I'm sorry. Second reading ordinance. Sorry, I didn't see it.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, amending the annual adopted general proprietary and special revenue funds budgets for the fiscal year commencing October 1, 2019 and ending September 30th, 2020, adjusting revenues and expenditures as reflected in Exhibit A, providing for the expenditure of funds established by the budget, authorizing the city manager to take certain actions, providing for appropriation of all budgets and expenditures, providing for fees consistent with the appropriations and amendment, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for conflict and repealer, providing for severability, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager.
Do I have a motion on the item?
Public hearing.
Public hearing item.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
So you want to open it up for public hearing first, or should we set the motion?
Is it a public hearing?
Yeah, it's a second.
Attorney?
It's a second reading.
It is a second reading, yes, sir.
Any public comment?
I don't have any, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Move the item.
Moved by Commissioner Kelly,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Bass. Any discussion on the item?
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Commissioner?
Thank you. I noticed in the comments on this budget amendment, but could the manager just speak to the highlights again? I noticed at the top, the revenue anticipated to be reduced due to COVID-19 and some of the other things. Anything else that really stands out that he wants to highlight or we need to be aware of that maybe that has come up to the manager?
Mr. Manager?
Mr. Vice Mayor, Budget Director. Mr. Anathan.
Yeah, good evening, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. This was presented 2 commission meetings ago, but I'll review what we covered at that point. The major things in there include I'm just going to go through the sequence of the more important ones. Item 1, which you mentioned, reflected a reduction in revenue due to COVID-19. That basically is just truing it up, funding the projects. There's going to be a little bit less revenue. The cost has been moved between streets. There is adequate fund balance in this fund. This should not be confused with general fund. So we're going to use a little bit of the fund balance on this fund to compensate for the reduced revenue and the additional expenditure in this particular account for additional road work. Other significant things, the second item in there is that it's necessary to increase the contract services for the financial consultants, because part of the budget assumption when the budget was assembled was that there would be a finance director on board. Finance director obviously has not been hired thus far. Therefore, the consultants have had to do more work, and we had to increase their budget. Other things of substance, the third one has to do with two change orders associated with the 2105 Alabama project. Small ones, a small percentage of the total project. Number 6, we're just bringing the utility expense associated with wastewater into line with prior years. The budget that was put in place was too low, and we're now bringing it into line. The number 7 is an important one. It has to do with the funding of the initiation of the Stormwater Master Plan, $100,000. It can be funded out of the fund balance for that particular fund. The next one has relevance, particularly with the rains that we've had lately. Has to do with procuring a pump on a trailer to deal with flooding. We had a budget of $20,000. It turns out the cost of the pump is $56,000, so we need another $36,000. Number 9 has to do with replacing the air conditioning units at Charbonne Community Center, which I was over the other day, and they truly need to be replaced. Number 12 has to do with obtaining the personnel temperature monitors for the park. That's $7,000, which is available from others funding. And those are probably the minor ones, or I'm sorry, the major ones. The rest of them are basically just housekeeping of small movements between various lines in particular divisions.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Commissioner Kelly.
Thank you. To the manager or to to the budget director. In the 2105, I noticed that you anticipate 2 more change orders coming forward. I'm assuming they'll be captured in future budget amendments. Is that correct?
They are in this is the funding of them. You will see the change orders being brought forward. I would have thought tonight, but apparently in the next commission meeting.
Okay. The other thing that concerns me, and I know there's things always changing, and I know COVID-19 has changed a lot of things, but some of these revised numbers on cost or what's budget is really challenging to me, whether it's a pump, whether it's the air conditioning. I mean, we budgeted one amount, and it seems that the adjustment is tremendously high over those initial budget projections. Can someone tell me why that would be in most of these? Why is there such a discrepancy? Because the staff, I'm assuming, regardless which department, when they go out to do this analysis or get these quotes or get whatever, it seems like some tremendous jumps in pricing or pricing differencing from the budgeted amount to the adjustment to what winds up being the revised amount. For example, on the pump with the trailer, budgeted 20, made adjustment 36, so I'm assuming it's going to cost us about 56,000. Would that be a correct amount or assumption?
Yes, sir, that is the correct amount.
Okay, so why did we even think that it would cost us 20 to begin with? That we would have budgeted 20 for an item that obviously is twice that much. And I'm using that because that's a low number. But I see that throughout a lot of these budget with regards to the budget amendment, and this one in particular. I would hope going forward that we do a more accurate assessment of whatever the cost of the budgeted amount that we're going to put in, that is really reflective, and not just wait on, in my opinion, it's my opinion, we'll go back and make a budget amendment later to capture costs. Because some of these, the budget amount versus the adjustment and revised numbers are so different, in my opinion, that it's kind of interesting how we came up with the first budget amount. So going forward, I would hope that we would address that so that it captures real, what I want to call real numbers, or at least closer to real numbers, so that we don't have these kind of budget amendments, these kind of amounts going forward, particularly when revenues potentially could be decreased or things that change that we are not really expected, as you mentioned with the finance person versus the consultant. Okay, if the manager wants to weigh in, he can, but thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Manager?
I would say during the budget process, we are taking more of a stringent eye on reviewing the budget and making sure budget development is done appropriately by the departments. I know Mr. Anthony is doing an exceptional job in doing that, thus bringing these budget amendments forward to make sure that we're correcting and truing up the budget. I think this upcoming budget, you guys are going to see something tremendously different compared to past budgets over the last couple of years. In saying that, I know we do have plans in place as well as rectifications of those issues from occurring in the future.
Thank you for that, Mr. Pate. I know we had our challenges, with our budgeting and finances, and glad to have Mr. Anthony on board. You can definitely see the difference, having a full-time budget director and someone who's, accurately looking at our finances. So thank you, Mr. Manager. Thank you, the staff, and let's keep doing the great work. Any more discussion on this item? Okay, hearing none. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Bass?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis?
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Moving along to the city manager's report. Mr. Pate?
Good evening, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, staff, Madam Clerk. My report will be short tonight because I have an extended report for tomorrow during our strategic planning session and our COVID-19 update. So I'm not going to try to keep everybody's time up this evening because you guys will hear a lot of me tomorrow. In saying that, over the last 2 weeks, we have done exceptionally well as far as testing goes. Our testing site is averaging 450 to 550 tests per day. Currently, as everybody is aware, the testing site had a capacity of 200. Now we're testing over 400 on average. Today we tested 661, I want to say, either today or yesterday. And that's because the testing site had to close early the last couple of days due to rain and severe weather. So the testing site opened up early yesterday and today to take those people that were not able to test the 2 previous days due to rain and weather. And we're looking at severe weather actually tomorrow into the weekend as well. So the testing site will be adjusting at that point. We have opened up overflow parking at Shabundi across the street at the church, as well as state parking at 780 across the way in the parking lot to do overflow parking for testing. That may not be enough, but we're kind of adjusting as the numbers kind of raise and adjusting parking from there. I know we had a lot of resident complaints in regards to vehicles being parked on grass on their property and various other things. So we're trying to work on that on a day-to-day basis, try to get those things kind of addressed and rectified. If everybody's looked, the county's kind of dialed back reopening, not to the pace or not to my liking. And I'm going to bring a recommendation to Commissioner Kelly sometime tomorrow in regards to the matter to be addressed by the commission, because he did bring up a concern in regards to reopening and various different things the city can do to kind of deal with the rising numbers of COVID-19 positive within Miami-Dade County, more specifically within the city of Opa-locka. So we're looking at those items actively on a daily basis. The county has now pretty much a permanent curfew in place. They did not rescind their curfew. So the county does have a curfew in place from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., I want to say, nightly. That has been maintained. Banquet rooms and large dining facilities are closed effective midnight tonight. Restaurants will only be able to do outdoor dining only and takeout dining. So that's a dial back of what the county kind of done. They did not close gyms, but they did close dining facilities. And there's some angst amongst some city managers and elected officials in regards to that, keeping gyms open with a mask and closing dining facilities, kind of looking at, if you're looking at the health, welfare, and safety of people need food, not to work out. But I know those are the kind of things that are being looked at. The day by day, the county are coming out with these emergency orders without little or no notice to the cities or communities or municipalities all whatsoever. So as I get them, they're forwarded to the commission. Madam Clerk did forward something out to the commission today. So as I get them, as we're notified, we're pushing those things out. The county mayor is kind of keeping those things kind of close to the vest. They're really not sharing a lot with the municipalities as far as daily changes as we see them occur. I think more can be done. You have a lot of municipalities that have reopened their city halls, and now they have closed their city halls effective this past Monday due to the COVID-19 rate within Miami-Dade County. So you have municipalities that have closed municipal operations and have staff working from home. I know that those are options that I have implemented within the city of Opa-locka, which I'll probably be pushing out on a more lengthier manner once we get enough computer equipment in, extra laptops and various things to assist people working from home. Just for clarification, when COVID-19 started, we did do a huge influx of orders for laptop computers. So we do have a lot of staff that are equipped to work from home. We want to do is to kind of increase that pool of computers to increase that number. And as we order computers are unavailable through Dell and other computer manufacturers. So we're kind of trying to, race to kind of get this equipment as fast as we possibly can. As far as looking at green spaces and parks and recreation, that's going to stay closed until further notice, based on just the numbers and what we're looking at. We are going to equip the facilities, prepare them for opening, but we're not going to make a determination if we're going to open park facilities at this time. We are purchasing the temperature machines. We are equipping the facilities. We are updating the facilities to be COVID-19 friendly, but that's just in preparation and to be good citizens and making sure that our facilities are able and capable of maintaining people, because we do have hurricane season coming about. So we do need to make sure our facilities are available for emergency evacuation purposes and for other purposes for our residents and community members outside of just parks and recreation. So we are looking into that. We are in hurricane preparation mode. The county is supposed to have training for our teams to get together and kind of go over that at the EOC, waiting for dates and stuff to come out for that. So we are kind of dealing with hurricane season and COVID-19, which brings in more demands. The county is putting out guidance in regards to COVID-19 and hurricane preparation because they do have an effect on one another as far as how we operate during hurricane preparation and during a time of hurricanes as they come to the South Florida area. So we're waiting on further guidance from the county on that matter. Tomorrow we have a strategic planning meeting that I built into the workshop to go over strategic planning, to kind of come up with some goals, at least for the rest of the fiscal year for the city manager's office, and then going into the rest of the fiscal year. Also tomorrow, I do want to discuss 2105 Alabama and the use of the facility, since that facility will be done as far as remodeling is concerned. That building is currently not programmed for a specific purpose, but I did not want to stop renovations of that building. I know that's a key topic that Commissioner Kelly wanted to discuss. So it gives me opportunity to bring that up during the workshop tomorrow. as well as any other concerns the commission may have in regards to strategic planning and anything they want to see in the upcoming months and into the next fiscal year. That, if there's no questions, that concludes my report, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Any response to the manager's report? Okay.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Manager, you mentioned a whole lot with the hurricane preparedness. I'm always one of specific details, having been through a lot of this. And I really focus on the little smaller things, like making sure we have the connections with the ice company, the U-Haul truck that's going to do whatever, all those kind of simple things that impact residents in a major way. I did hear you say we were getting our buildings, i.e. prepared for hurricane possibilities for, well, not necessarily shelter, but I guess command use or whatever we do regarding that, and that there's some training to take place coming up with the county, if I heard you correctly. So I'll wait on hearing more about that or as that gets completed. Let me, without going to a long list of time, Mr. Manager, I've asked you for various things over the last few weeks. And I know we're in COVID-19, and I know where staff is in the building sometimes and not, but I'm gonna tell you, I'm not happy with the responses that I get and how long it takes to get the response. I'm a major supporter of yours and believing that you can get stuff done, but I don't like waiting 2 or 3 weeks to get an answer to something. To me, that's a fluff answer. And I'm not thrilled with it at all. And some of my concerns predate COVID-19. So I'm not even going to let that be a reason or factor, because some of this goes back. And particularly when I mentioned Ingram Park and some of those challenges regarding the park and just the maintenance, the alleyways, things of that nature, that in my opinion should have been addressed way further and along. And some of the other things that when I finally got a response this week and the one last week, in my opinion, did not address the issue. They're just more or less giving me an answer. I don't mind waiting. The staff has to do the research and really get a detailed answer or response. I don't mind, but I don't like getting answers that I believe, in my opinion, have not really addressed the issue or the question. So I'm saying that hopefully going forward, we can do a better job of responding in a timely manner. And again, some of these predate COVID-19, so I understand where we are now and taking a little bit more time to get answers and or responses. But some of these things are a matter of picking up a phone and calling an agency or whoever we have contact with. Some of these things predate, and when I ride around and in my opinion see some of the same things still occurring, I am challenged. When I look at the alley over in some areas over there by Ingram Park, when I look at the maintenance and how long it takes to deal with certain areas in Magnolia North and in other areas in our community, I am really challenged by that. So I hope going forward we can do a better job, because I don't want to go back to the days of having to give time frames just to make sure I get a response. So hopefully we can work on that. Thank you. I'll save the other things for tomorrow. Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other responses to the manager's report, or would the manager like to respond?
I would say that I do agree with Commissioner Kelly fully in regards to his responses. I will ensure that I hold staff accountable to ensure that his responses are answered in a timely manner. I do appreciate the benefit of the doubt that the commissioner has provided the CMO's office thus far during my tenure. And we will work on meeting his expectations as best as possible to ensure that we address those issues. I do agree that the answers provided we're not the most efficient answers. We are working with staffing in various departments to ensure that those areas are addressed in an appropriate manner. And I'll be meeting with the appropriate department head tomorrow and making sure that we have a solid and concrete plan in place and you have revised responses to the questions, answers that you received today.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Kelly. Any more responses for the manager's report? Okay. I would like to extend the opportunity for the mayor and commission report. Do we have any reports?
Mr. Vice Mayor?
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes. Again, I want to thank the manager and the staff, our volunteers, Parks and Rec, all of those departments that assist with our weekly feeding that we do, the clerk's office via Mr. Grice, and all those who take part in doing that. We continue to do that for the community. And so I want to just commend all those who take a hand in that. I am working on a virtual town hall with Representative Bush for Tallahassee update and going back. I know, Mr. Manager, probably not on the immediate radar because it probably hasn't changed much, whatever our package and agenda items, but I wanted to give an opportunity to come back and share with the community what he did this past session and hear from them if they have any concerns, although we submit a legislative package and what have you, so they can have that ready when they go back into session. Obviously, it's going to be a different type of session with COVID-19, but however it is, to have that in place. We're also working on the back to school town hall that we have with our school board member, Dr. Gallen. Of course, I've kind of pushed it back a little bit because that's been a moving target with some of the challenges. So I don't want to really have the meeting until they kind of firm up what is that's going to be done, being done or will be done. He's already agreed to do that. So we're going to set it, but we kind of pushed it back so they can kind of figure out what's going on. We've been following it. It's a moving target with the state mandate, the president weighing in, and of course our superintendent, and of course parents and teachers' concerns as well. So we'll be on the eye for that. The last thing I want to say, really to my colleagues, the Vice Mayor in particular, I spoke to the manager already, as I brought up a while back about the, for lack of a better term, the Park Summit. And I don't want to, when I talk about parks, not just our baseball or basketball, but all those kind of services we want to offer our community regarding leisure services, about having that summit. And I know we had talked about having it in August. I know, Mr. Vice Mayor, you indicated you wanted to be part of it or co-sponsor or co-host it, but I hadn't had a chance to really, in a meeting to see if you were still interested, because we were trying to start to put things in place. Looks like we're still going to be in some type of virtual mode, potentially moving forward, at least for the next couple of months. But I think it's something we still need to discuss, bringing in folks, outside folks that would be a part of that panel, or how we set it up, and to engage our residents and kind of put something in place going forward as to what recreation, leisure services for our entire community would look like, and capturing this virtual opportunity as a part of that, so that staff will have some direction going forward and how we approach all of those kind of services for our community. We're looking, like I said, sometime in early August. The manager was looking at his calendar to kind of firm up a couple of possible dates. So if you're still interested, I definitely welcome that. But we want to move on that as well, sometime in August to have that. And I invite my colleagues, all of us really, I think should be a part of it, because we need to have some kind of master plan for our, i.e., I don't want to just say recreation, because we tend to think of just sports outdoors, but encompassing all of those elements of leisure services, what I call them, for our community and all parts of our community. So I just want to leave it that with my report, and then you can, obviously speak to the manager or what have you. And I suggested to the attorney to find out if need be, even if we needed to have a sunshine meeting with just you and I virtually discuss. We could do that, I believe, according to the attorney, and the, via the clerk, set it up and notice it so that we could have that dialogue to set things up. And I welcome my colleagues if they want to be a part too. So I'll just put that out there, and then that's part of my report. Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Well, thank you for that, Commissioner. Commissioner Bass?
Yes, thank you, sir. I'm in the process also of putting together a Zoom meeting with our PR person, kids and COVID. We know that for us as adults, it's been challenging. So imagine our kids, approximately 350,000 students in Miami-Dade County alone, who has to also live with this, being confused, don't understand why we're wearing masks and the whole 9 yards. So we're gonna have some really good guests with us that evening. And again, it's kids and COVID, and I'm looking to see each and every one of you there on Zoom to spread the word and help get some, some questions answered, because the mental anguish that our kids are going through is nothing to play with. If you were to have a conversation with some of our little babies, you would be surprised to know what they're thinking. They are confused and they are very, very fearful because they don't understand. So yeah, I'm gonna do kids and COVID coming up soon. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Commissioner. And thank you for taking the lead on empowering our kids and educating them and keeping them connected during this difficult time. Commissioner Kelly, thank you as well for, extending the town halls from, keeping our community connected as far as, what the future or what the new normal is like for schools and our children, as well as providing, public forums to give legislative updates to the community. So props to you for doing that. Also, I am very much still interested in participating in the virtual parks forum whenever we do go ahead with it. If the manager is okay with August as a target, I think that's perfect time. We're still ahead of budget season, and I definitely, for one, would like to have that feedback from the community to make sure that they are informing the types of programs and services that we are providing from a parks and family standpoint. So thank you for keeping that going, and yes, I will be a part of it. And Mr. Manager, if we could set up something through the clerk and make sure the meeting is noticed, and of course the rest of the commission is invited. I would definitely like to go ahead with that. Just to kind of recap on last weekend, thank you guys for attending the town hall. Thank my colleagues and staff for coming out on a Saturday and lifting up their computers and engaging virtually with our community. It was well received. Got a lot of good feedback about it, and I think we got some good information out there to the community. So glad to see more people getting tested. Props to the manager's office and staff. I had a chance to visit City Hall today and saw the new temperature reading. So definitely glad to see that those measures are in place to make sure that we are doing our due diligence to take care of our staff and ultimately the clients that we serve. I know we're still, debating on reopening and what that looks like. So I hope the manager, still working through those issues and, ultimately he will come up with something and establish something more sustainable long-term. With that being said, I will conclude my report. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Sorry.
Commissioner, I'm sorry.
No, Mr. Vice Mayor, I just wanted to. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Vice.
I'm sorry. Okay. I just wanted to commend you tonight for your leadership in hosting this meeting and getting us done before 8:30. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I'll second that motion to adjourn.
All right. Before we take the motion, let me just ask the clerk for the record. Do we have any board appointments before we head out?
No, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Okay. So the motion is on the floor by Commissioner Kelly. Do I have a second to adjourn?
Second.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, we're out before 8:30, so efficient meetings. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Awesome job, Vice Mayor. Awesome job.